You are strongly forewarned of the graphic, sexually violent content of this movie. You might want to stop watching. However, if you can stomach it, there is a highly interesting film here. There's no other movie like this. You don't see this movie, you experience it. It is a global phenomenon, a cult classic of epic proportion, truly a masterpiece of cinema. A masterpiece of what? This movie goes beyond just ugly. This movie is sick. I spit on your yick. Just the title of this flick gives me shivers. It is a nasty, disgusting picture that should be banned forever from the face of the earth. Those who enjoy watching the rape scenes must be potential rapists, and those who enjoy the revenge scene must be sadists. And if you think of it as a cult classic, you should be locked up. When my husband first rented it, I thought, yeah, right, another tits and ass movie. Was I ever surprised? I loved it. It is a gripping, intelligent, anti-rape film and the most pro-feminine movie ever made. It truly is Day of the Woman, because here, finally, a woman takes control. I cheered all the way through the second half of it. Pro-feminine, anti-rape. This is the most anti-feminine movie ever made. It expands upon the notion that women are nothing but sexual playthings, and it glorifies rape. It titillates men and makes them want to rape. It is the most vilified picture in cinema's history. It is the most misunderstood movie in cinema's history. Like it or not, it is a remarkable motion picture that is truly beyond reproach. A movie that was created by a true humanitarian. A true what? Can a movie get any worse than this? He or she created the mother of all depraved movies. And let me tell you, its director is too scared to come out in public or do interviews or even an audio commentary. Apparently, he or she fears for his or her life. I say he or she because there have been rumors out that no one knows which sex the director is. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Hi, this is Meir Zarki, the writer and director of this motion picture. Some of the comments you just heard were made by professional movie critics and some by viewers from all over the world. For many years, I kept silent about the reasons for making the movie. The only interview I've ever given on the subject was to a film magazine back in 1984. Since then, I've just quietly watched from the sidelines as the reactions, for and against the movie, mushroom into a wild, unstoppable twister. I welcome you aboard and value your desire to share with me some of the events that I've experienced before, during, and after I made the film. I will also tell you what made me choose such an extremely violent subject and handle it, as some critics describe, in the most vicious fashion the screen has ever seen.
I've rented a summer house here, right by the edge of the river. Never even seen it before.
Bet you're gonna like it here.
I intend to.
In fact, I bet you're gonna like it so well you stay year-round.
Oh, no. Just for the summer.
Yeah?
The little town of Kent, Connecticut, had only 2 gas stations, a new, modern one and this one. This one was most likely built when Ford invented the Model T. I chose it because it looked so shabby and out of date, and because it had a small-town charm to it. It also symbolizes Jennifer's passage from the big, ultra-modern city into backwoods America. Kent is situated 100 miles north of New York City, about 2 hours' drive from Times Square, where my production offices were located at the time. Other than the first 2 opening scenes that were filmed in New York, the entire movie was shot in and around this town.
Have a nice summer.
I will. You too.
Okay.
A year before I shot the movie, an old friend of mine invited me to stay over the weekend in a summer house he recently purchased in Kent. At the time, the idea for the movie was beginning to bud in my mind, so as soon as I saw the house, I knew this is the place Jennifer Hills rents for the summer. It had just the right feel I was looking for, of loneliness and eerie solitude. There it is. My friend's name is Yuri Haviv, and yes, he's also the cinematographer of this movie. Then, next to the house, I discovered this gorgeous river called the Housatonic. In fact, when I wrote the screenplay, I initially titled it The Housatonic Revenge. And so, another location was added to the story, and new ideas of what transpired here began to form in the visual collection of my mind. Exterior, river, day. At last, Jennifer has found the heavenly peace she was seeking. At last, she feels free from the confinement and commotion of the big city. She has returned to nature's womb. Awed by the beauty of the place and feeling safe by its isolation, she eagerly takes off her clothes and goes into the water. For a few beats we hold steadily on her, then cut to interior, bedroom, day, Jennifer unpacking. Throughout the entire movie, we use only real locations. The setting in this room and the appearance of all the other sites, whether indoors or outdoors, convey the actual look of each place as we initially found it. Almost nothing was moved, replaced, or touched up. Camille is unpacking her own clothes. Everything you see her wearing throughout the movie belongs to her. But not this thing. We rented that son of a gun. By the way, this bedroom setting was shot in another home. The one in Yuri's house was too small to contain the crew and camera equipment. As Camille is coming out of the bedroom, we are back at Yuri's place. This shot was taken a few days later.
Your order, ma'am.
This was the first sequence we shot with dialogue. Camille and Richard were very nervous during the first few takes, but quickly adapted and sailed through it with ease. I modeled the character of Matthew after a guy who worked as a messenger in my office building. He was very kind and friendly, but mentally challenged.
Where's that?
When Richard auditioned for the role of Matthew, I let him read a few pages from this scene. As I observed him reading the part, I no longer saw him as Richard Pace, the bright, intelligent man who walked into my office. He was instantly transformed into the character of Matthew. He was Matthew. Would you believe me if I tell you that I wrote most of the screenplay underground? Literally. I would write a few scenes every morning in the subway on my way from my home to my office in Times Square, and then continue to write a few more scenes every evening on my way back home, a 40-minute train ride each way.
And you're gonna write a book here?
After dinner, my wife would sit at our kitchen table and type my handwritten pages. It took me 4 months to complete the screenplay. The entire movie was photographed with an Arriflex 2, an all but very reliable 35mm camera. The Arriflex and all the other tools we used for the shoot belonged to Yuri Haviv. They were part of a package deal I worked out with him, his services as a cinematographer and the use of his production apparatus. Yuri owned practically every tool that one needs to make a modestly budgeted motion picture. Other than the camera accessories, they consisted of some basic lighting and grip equipment, a mini-sized generator, and a reel-to-reel tape recorder that used quarter-inch tapes. Most of Yuri's equipment was old, but that tape recorder was so archaic it belonged in the Museum of Antiquity. Its syncing mechanism would often lapse, and you could no longer get parts to replace it. As a result, the dialogue wouldn't stay in sync with the actor's lip movements. Since I had many years of experience as a film and sound editor prior to directing this movie, I put it in perfect sync with the image by either cutting or adding frames, and sometimes a fraction of a frame, in the 35mm magnetic soundtrack. Yuri is a great cinematographer and a master fixer. He would buy used or broken equipment, bring them back to life, and create wonders with them. He was a pleasure to work with and always responsive to all my requests and needs, no matter how challenging. He felt and saw every scene I set up as if through my eyes.
What do you want this afternoon? What is it? What's all the works? Isn't there? I probably got $3.
We shot this sequence in one night, from sunset to sunrise. Our portable, toy-like generator wasn't powerful enough to light even this relatively small area by the edge of the river. To make up for it, we plugged lamps with long extension cords to the electric outlets of Yuri's house, a distance of about 100 feet, then pulled the lamps all the way down to this spot. Listen to the chorus of insects. How can they scream all night long? The level of their chirping varied significantly from one take to another, and I had to balance it in the sound studio.
I mean the ones that look like real knockouts.
If you listen carefully, you'll notice that not always with great success.
And I wonder if they gotta take a shit too. Hey, all women shit. Women are full of shit. Not my mother. My sister is. Oh man, cut out the shit talk.
There is one shot in this sequence that was not taken that night, the one of Matthew defecating. By the time we were ready to shoot it, the first flash of sunrise filtered through the trees and shined on us, so we took it a few days later in another section of the woods.
You're very rude, Stanley. Oh, you named me Stanley. Sounds like a fucking virgin. He is. Yeah, but he's not gonna stay one for long. We're gonna fix him up with a broad. Hey, Matthew, what do you say?
When I completed the editing of the picture, its total length was 101 minutes. Then, upon viewing the answer print on a large screen, that is, the first print that combines picture and sound and is shown to me by the film laboratory for my final approval, it ended up feeling very much like I wanted it to feel. Its length, its visuals, sounds, and pacing created just the effect I wanted it to achieve, and I did not wish to touch a single frame in it, with the exception of this sequence. The guy's chat lasted 60 seconds longer than I cared for, and I felt that their extra dialogue did not give us any additional insight into their thinking that we haven't already caught on to. After I shortened this sequence by these 60 seconds, the uncut original length of the movie was, and still is, 100 minutes. It was a discretionary cut, and the only one I made in the picture after it was completed. Were there any compulsory cuts I had to make in it? You bet. I'll tell you about it later. The enchanting Housatonic. The place seemed so isolated and untouched by humans, it gave you the eerie sensation that you are back to the dawn of creation. When Indians lived here, they hunted for animals in the woods and fished for trout and salmon in the river. In their time off, our cast and crew members enjoyed fishing here.
Finally, after weeks of self-doubt and much deliberation, she embarked on a temporary leave.
I'm often being asked, how did Camille Keaton end up with the lead role? During pre-production, I posted a casting notice in Backstage, a trade paper for actors looking for work in movies and on stage. It read something like, seeking 5 lead characters, a woman and 4 men in their 20s, for a low-budget, non-union movie to be shot this summer. Please send photo and resumes to, etc. Of over the 4,000 photos and resumes I received, one was from Camille. As soon as I laid my eyes on her picture, I saw the face of Jennifer Hills. Her brief resume mentioned that she was born in Arkansas, grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and that she is the star of a half a dozen European motion pictures. I immediately phoned her and asked her to come for an interview. When Camille showed up in my office the next day, I saw a beautiful and charming woman with a great sense of humor. During the interview, she told me that she had recently come back to the United States from Italy, where she lived for several years, starring in movies. How does a Southern girl end up starring in European films? After graduating from high school, Camille told me, she worked for a while as an airline stewardess, then chose to go to Italy to pursue a dream of becoming an actress. It was in the early 70s. Italy was swarmed with American actors who at the time couldn't find work in Hollywood, but kept busy making movies in Europe. After doing some extra and commercial work there, Camille was discovered by an Italian producer who signed her to star in her first feature film, Cosa avete fatto a Solange? What have you done to Solange? It became an instant hit in Europe. But after 6 years of making one movie after another there, Camille said, she was longing to return home to America and to seek an opportunity to make her first American film here. She had a 35mm print of What Have You Done to Solange, and she screened it for me. The movie didn't leave an everlasting impression on me, nor did Camille's performance in it, but it showed me how well she photographs. Screen test for my actors was a luxury I could not entertain. Well, she scored a few important points. Experienced actress, beautiful and photogenic, but is she suitable for the character of Jennifer? It didn't take me long to find out. I conducted about a dozen auditions with Camille. The more I observed her reading for the part and interacting with the other potential actors, the more I was convinced of her ability to carry the weight of the lead role. A perceptive woman and an intuitive actress, Camille was spontaneous, natural, and believable. Before I met Camille, I considered 2 other women for the lead part. They were also beautiful and pretty good actresses, but one, a 6 feet 2 inches who looked like a gorgeous Amazon, had a face that was stamped with a permanent expression that warned you, nobody messes with me, dude. And the other one was so stunningly beautiful, she was distracting. In contrast, Camille had that certain quality that no other actress who auditioned for the part of Jennifer had. Her slim, delicate figure and her soft, ethereal beauty gave the impression of a vulnerable woman, a woman you could not suspect she possesses such inner strength and that, when pushed to the edge, is capable of scheming, let alone executing her own special hell for each and one of her tormentors. During the entire auditioning period, I did not reveal to Camille the full contents of the story. It was only after I was certain that she was my final choice for the lead part that I handed her the full screenplay. However, I still did not announce to her that she was my pick. I decided to wait until I hear her reaction. In the meantime, I was wondering, after reading the script and finding how unconventional it is in its depiction of violence, will she go for the part? Furthermore, the portrayal of Jennifer Hills will surely be one of the most demanding and challenging roles that any movie actress has ever encountered, not to mention the nude scenes. Will she have the courage to take such incredible artistic and creative risks? Well, Camille called me the next day and she was ecstatic. It is a great script. We women seldom get a chance for a decent role. I can do this movie. You have to have me. You'll be sorry if you don't. Now, my only worry was, would she be able to sustain all the intense physical and emotional abuse that she will have to experience throughout much of the movie? In other words, might she quit on me before I complete the shoot? Since I couldn't afford the cost of a completion bond, the insurance policy that guarantees you money to reshoot and finish the movie in the event of such a calamity, this was a risk I had to take, and it was well worth it. Only 6 months after the movie was completed, Camille won Best Actress Award for her portrayal of Jennifer Hills. It was at the International Film Festival of Fantasy and Terror in Sitges, Spain. The following year, Camille and I flew to Spain by the invitation of that same festival. This time, she received another distinct honor, to serve as the head of the jury that unanimously granted her the Best Actress Award. By then, Camille, in addition to being the leading lady of my movie, became also my leading lady in real life. Not long after the picture was completed, we tied a knot and became a husband and wife. All the shots in this scene, as well as the shots in most other action sequences, were taken without sound. The guy's catcalls, Jennifer's screams, the churning of the water and the roar of the engine were recorded after the movie was edited, then synchronized with the picture to match with the action. These guys, Gunter Kliman and Anthony Nichols, each earned a college degree in psychology prior to their appearance in the movie. Gunter even worked with emotionally disturbed children. Yes, he was also a natural in handling the motorboat and taught Camille how to master it. Must have been a good trainer. As we see later in the movie, when Camille takes charge of that motorboat and uses it as a weapon to terrorize these guys, she does a pretty good job at it herself.
Whoa, she's a wild one.
Aw, pretty lady, let me help you up.
Here, too, all the shots were taken silently. Shooting without the need to set up the tape recorder and microphones for each of these quick cuts allowed us to move rapidly from one shot to another. This way, with a crew of 30 people, you save a considerable amount of time and money. The head-on collision with Aaron made Camille nervous. She was afraid she might hurt her breast on impact or bruise herself when she hit the ground. Yet we shot Camille running into him from 3 different angles, and each time she gave us a wonderful bump and a wild fall without getting even a scratch. We didn't have a stunt person to replace her in this scene.
Hey, Andy. Stanley, come here.
Stop it!
Grab her arm.
Stop it!
The broad's all yours. Come on. Come on.
Not now. Not now.
Fucking asshole, we got it for you. Come on.
I can't do it now. Not now.
Damn it, don't stand there like a prick. Get over here.
I can't.
Come on! Okay, fucking asshole, just grab her leg.
I mentioned that I was a film editor prior to directing this movie, so naturally I edited it too. During the editing, I did not go through the common practice of doing film assembly, then a rough cut, and finally a final cut. Right from the start, I embarked on fine cutting every sequence in the order it appears in the script. I tried different variations with every scene. I would do and undo each sequence numerous times until I found the right structure, pacing, and feel for it. Should a close-up of Jennifer open the sequence, or would a medium shot be more effective? Should the reaction shots of the guys be more predominant when they rape her, or should I focus longer on Jennifer's face and make her the center of attention? Or maybe the whole scene should be just one long master shot that says it all. The film was edited on a 35mm flatbed editing machine, and the entire post-production took a little over a year. Quite a few guys who auditioned for me were unwilling to be seen naked in a movie, regardless of how essential it is to the story. Almost none of the women had a problem with this issue. Naturally, said one actress, we women are not ashamed to show off our anatomy. Our bodies are perfect instruments, far more beautiful and superior to that of men. Well, how could you argue with that? Even though these four guys had no problem with this issue, they came to me on the first day of shooting with a request. Is it okay if we take off our clothes? We would like to show up in the nude in front of the entire crew. I knew their intentions, so I smiled and said, go ahead. All at once, they got undressed right in front of everybody and, totally naked, ran around us in circles, howling like kids at play. We all broke into a wild laughter, and that was all to it. In the few seconds that this brave public display took place, the guys overcame any feeling of awkwardness and discomfort that they may have felt with regard to their nakedness. In addition, they satisfied the curiosity of the crew, particularly that of the females, and now everybody was ready to embark on the serious task of making the movie.
You'll never regret it. Don't blow it. Woo, nephew, yeah. Come on, do it. Waiting there for you, boy.
That chicken is running scared.
Fucking Matthew, you're gonna die a virgin.
Most of our filming took place inside these woods. Occasionally, we would spot an eagle or a hawk watching us from atop the hill, and sometimes a deer picking at us curiously from a safe distance. When you had to go, you had to settle for the nearest cluster of bushes, but you had to be careful. While squatting like a sitting duck and letting nature take its course, you could have easily become a target for a scorpion or a snake bite in your butt, or in another, more delicate part. Before I let Camille step into this swamp, two guys wearing long waterproof leggings stepped into it and with long wooden sticks beat the water and slush below to chase away poisonous water snakes. As I said, we did not employ a stunt person. Camille, like the guys, performed all the daring feats by herself throughout the entire movie. She accepted nudity as a natural and fundamental part of the story. The hard part, though, was running naked and barefoot in the forest for days without any protection from the elements of nature and with the temperature hitting 90 degrees in the shade. Mosquitoes loved Camille. They rushed from all over the woodland to welcome her and had a feast sucking her blood. After a few days of shooting in these woods, Camille's entire body was stung so badly by poisonous larvae and insects that we had to rush her to the emergency room for treatment. I wanted to let her rest for a day or two and shoot around her until she recovered, but she insisted on resuming her work. She never complained and was hell-bent to go to any extreme, whether physical or emotional, to convey the agony and humiliation of Jennifer Hills. Never complained? Correction. She did once, but only once, and she accompanied it with a colossal temper tantrum. It happened right here. Yet, prior to this incident, we ran into another unexpected problem in this location. Let me tell you about this one first. In the middle of shooting the rape scene which is about to happen here, we noticed that our electrician, a good, hard-working guy in his mid-20s, was suddenly standing frozen with shock. "What's the matter?" we asked him. "Are you feeling sick?" "Yes," he said. "Sick of this violence, and I'm quitting." Me and the entire crew were baffled. This gaffer stuck with us during the filming of all the other violent scenes and even lit the sets. Yet, nothing fazed him until we started to shoot this sequence. "Why?" we asked him. "I can't help it," he said with glassy eyes. "This is just too traumatic for me. It extends beyond my limits." As he was walking away from the set, Yuri whispered into my ear, "Congratulations, the sequence works." We never saw or heard from that guy again. Now, as if one setback in this location was not enough, there came the second crisis. Before I go into it, I should tell you that I did not use a storyboard and that I filmed most of the movie using 3 to 4 master shots of each sequence. A close shot, a medium shot, a long shot, and a variety of short pickups, mainly of reaction shots by the actors. Since I used only one camera, the actors had to repeat the entire action in each scene from beginning to end for every master shot. After I took 3 master shots of this rape scene, I felt that I could use one more, at the end of which I wanted Camille to roll off the rock and then bump against a tree. "Are you crazy?" Camille yelled out. "This rape scene all over again, and then as a bonus I fall off the rock and bump against a tree? I'm not going back on that rock again. Never, ever." I knew that Camille was by now emotionally drained and physically exhausted. But on location, especially distant ones, if you don't cover all the scenes you need while you can still get them, chances are you never will. Yet, all my attempts to convince Camille to do it one more time were useless. I then recalled that she told me once about a struggling actress she knew who, to support herself, was handing out promotion flyers in the New York subway. "What would you rather do?" I asked Camille. "Play out this scene one more time or hand out flyers in the subway?" That did it. She dashed off into the equipment van and slammed the door behind her. Then, for the next 15 minutes, she screamed her lungs out, firing a fusillade of 4-letter words in my direction while smashing things against the walls. I wanted to go into the van and calm her down, but Yuri stopped me. "Let her blow off steam," he said. "After she cools off, she'll come out and do the shot for you." To this day, so many years after I shot it, this rape still shocks and frightens me. Its effect on me is no less devastating than it was on that young electrician that fled from the set while we were still shooting it. To this day, I look at it and I say to myself, did I create this? Sometimes I feel as if a force other than myself had possessed me when I did. I hope that its effect on you is as overwhelming as it is on me, because I made this movie with the intention to create a mini earthquake in your head, to put you in Jennifer's place, to make you feel and experience the agony and pain that she was subjected to. Many critics applaud the movie for having the guts to be uncompromising in its depiction of rape, for daring to go way beyond what mainstream cinema would consider the proper limits. Yet, other critics detest this movie for these exact same reasons. They denounce and condemn it because it makes them sick to their stomachs. What did they expect a film about rape to be? Enjoyable to watch? Maybe entertaining? This movie was not made in Hollywood. It shocks and scares these critics because it tells a story in different visual and dramatic terms, such as they have never experienced before. They were not then, and are not now, ready for it. Maybe they never will be. Some of these critics even made it their mission in life to kick this movie into the black hole, a void into which they hope it will permanently vanish. But to their horror and dismay, they discover that the movie is indestructible. The more they attack it, the more powerful, controversial, and in demand it becomes. It never stops haunting them. All in all, these critics have been the movie's greatest promoters and may they forever continue their assaults on it. What was the driving force that motivated me to make this motion picture? I mentioned earlier that for many years I kept silent about the subject. It's now time to tell you. In 1974, I was living with my wife and 2 kids in Jamaica Hills, a quiet residential neighborhood in New York City. One Sunday afternoon in October of that same year, my good friend Alex came to my home to have a tennis match with me. It was raining on and off on that day, and the tennis court was wet, so we chose instead to go for a jog around the track of a nearby high school. My daughter, Tammy, who was 8 years old at the time, wanted to join us, so the 3 of us got into Alex's car and drove away. A block away from my home, there is a small, lovely park called Goose Pond. On any nice day, it is filled with happily playing kids and young mothers pushing baby carriages. But as we drove past the park on that gloomy, wet Sunday, on our way to the school's running track, it seemed lonely and deserted. "Is she naked?" I heard Alex saying. I looked at him. "What do you mean, is she naked? Who is naked?" Alex brought the car to a sudden stop. "That girl, over there," he said and pointed in the direction of the park. I turned and looked through the car's window. It was around 6 o'clock in the evening, near sunset, but with enough visibility to see her clearly from a distance of about 40 feet. A young woman, 18 or 19, totally naked, emerging from behind the bushes and staggering slowly toward us like a walking corpse. Her body stained with blood and mud, her eyes wide open and staring into space, numb with shock, her lower jaw hanging down and bleeding. For a split second, Alex, my daughter, and I sat frozen inside the car, gazing at her in stunned silence. Then I pushed the car door open and raced toward the girl. As I reached her, I spread my hands and she collapsed against my chest. "For heaven's sake, what happened to you?" I asked. She struggled to talk through her broken jaw. "They beat and raped me." "Who?" "2 guys. Alex, who now came rushing toward us, took off his plastic parka and wrapped it around her shoulders. We carried her to the car and placed her in the back seat right next to my stunned little daughter. The first thing we did was drive my daughter back home, then Alex and I sped away with the rape victim slouched in the back seat. We had to make a quick decision. Where should we take her? To the police? To the hospital? To the police, I said, and Alex, like me, thought that it was a brilliant idea. Why? A rapist could still be in the neighborhood. These evil people must be caught and jailed. Tomorrow, my daughter will be playing at that park, and she could be their next victim. So we rationalized, if we take the woman to the police, they'll get descriptions of her assailants. Then, while the cops rush out in droves to look for them, she'll be taken to a hospital. Consequently, we would accomplish 2 meaningful missions at once. The villains will be apprehended, and she'll be medically cared for. I respect policemen. They risk their lives for us while they protect and serve us. But the officer on duty at the police station was unfit to wear his uniform. In plain language, he was a jerk. The girl's pitiful sigh did not move him. Evidently, she was just one more crime victim to parade in front of him all day long. Another piece of damaged goods that had to be catalogued in his inventory list. So what is there to be excited about? He just gave her one quick look, as if she was an object of annoyance, and pulled out of form. I have to ask you a few questions, he said to her in a monotonous, bored voice. Officer, Alex and I said, shouldn't you call an ambulance first, then do your report? I've got to fill in this report first, he replied, and turned to the girl. What's your first name? She managed to pronounce it in a slow, painful whisper, and he wrote it down. Your last name. She whispered it too. How do you spell it? Her voice began to crack. Miss, I can't hear you. Will you speak up? Officer, look at her, I said. She has a broken jaw. How can she speak up? Will you please call an ambulance? All in due time, sir, the policeman replied with an indifferent tone and turned back to the girl. Spell your last name for me, will you? With great difficulty, she pronounced each letter, and he wrote it down. Then came a flood of more questions. Her age, her address, what time did it happen, at what exact location, were the guys white or black? As he was pounding and pounding her with these questions, I felt that the raping of this girl had not stopped. It was just transferred from that park into this police station and was continuing right in front of my eyes. Clutching Alex's parka against her breast, she was pacing the floor in front of the officer's desk, back and forth, trying to respond to his questions while grunting and whimpering like a caged, wounded animal. Alex and I looked at each other. What a terrible misjudgment we made bringing her here. The only thing we could do now to save this girl from the deplorable situation we put her in was to put an end to this inquisition. Officer, please, Alex said. Can't you see? The girl is going to pieces. She must be taken to a hospital right now. No, the cop said. I must first fill out this report. It's the required procedure. Tell me, miss, what was a girl like you doing in a park on a rainy day like this? It was then that I shouted at his face, Hey, mister, sir, officer, whatever the fuck your name is, stop your dumb questions and call an ambulance? His thick head finally got the message. A few minutes later, an ambulance arrived and rushed the girl to a hospital.
I can't. No more people are watching me.
He likes to shit in fucking dirty privacy.
Video nasties is a term that was coined in Britain in the early 80s, at the dawn of the video age. It characterized motion pictures on video that the British Board of Censors eventually banned. They were mostly movies that contained graphic sex and violence. Number one on the list of these banned titles was A Spit in Your Grave. Imagine possessing a videocassette of this movie was a crime punishable by law. Quite a few people received stiff fines and were sent to jail for even keeping one in their own homes. In New Zealand, a teacher was fired because he was talking about the movie to his pupils.
Sleepless nights. Oh, yeah, definitely The men who made love to her.
Oh, the men who made love to her.
I said the men who made love to her.
What happened to our rape victim in that park before we rushed to her help? Here is what I found out. She had a date with her boyfriend who lived across the street from there. Cutting through the park was a quicker way to get to his place. It was drizzling, and the park was empty of people, but she cut across it so many times before, rain or shine. It was always safe. She made it halfway through the park when two young men suddenly jumped on her from behind, snatched her eyeglasses from her face, punched her to the ground, and dragged her like a rag doll into the bushes. As she lay in the mud, moaning with shock and pain, they began to tear the clothes off her body. She begged them to stop and let her go. "Shut up, bitch, or we'll kill you," they warned her, then took turns slugging, raping, and sodomizing her. When they were finally done, she saw them pulling out a knife. They beat her into a pulp, violated her body, and disgraced her. Now it was time to slaughter her. As they began to squeeze the knife against her throat, she pleaded with them, "Please, don't do it to me. You took my glasses. I can't see you. I swear to God, I can't see a thing." Assuming that she won't be able to identify them, the man took pity on her, so to speak, and didn't slash her throat. But just to make sure that she wouldn't be able to get up and call for help before they got a chance to flee to a safe distance, they gave her a devastating punch into her jaw, grabbed her glasses and all her clothes, and took off. As she was laying there, half-conscious, moaning with agonizing pain, it seemed to her that her life was saved because she was severely nearsighted. But suddenly it dawned on her. A rapist might change their minds and come back to kill her. So she mustered all her strength, got up on her feet, and started to stumble away. It was when she came out of the bushes that we spotted her.
Okay, hey, come on! Okay, enough, let's go!
I believe you and I could use a short break from this incident, maybe even a little diversion.
Shit, man, wait a minute. We can't let her go. We just can't let her go. Go where? Go, man, go! Matthew, I want you to go back and do it. Okay? It's real easy.
Why are we doing this? We got what we wanted.
Come on, asshole. If she's dead, she can't point a finger at us.
Why me? Why me? I didn't even come.
Because I want you to do it, goddammit. That's why.
No.
We rehearsed this scene twice, and each time Richard was panicky when Anthony shoved that switchblade under his belt. Here, and in the castration scene, we used the real thing, so Richard was afraid that the blade might accidentally puncture his belly.
Come here. Come on.
No, we don't see any bloodstains there.
Hey, listen. There's gonna be a bunch more broads, huh? You come next time. Come here. Come on. Come on. Hey, we won't let you out on any...
One reviewer noted that the lush and peaceful scenery of the woods and water that we see throughout the movie point up to their innocence and is a direct contrast to the ugly acts of violence that take place there. Consequently, that reviewer adds, it makes the film even more uncomfortable to watch. Another reviewer remarks that the tranquil, beautiful surroundings point out the neutrality and impersonality of nature in the face of human adversity.
It'll all be over with. It's real easy.
Over here?
No. Over here. Right between the ribs. Okay? The knife is like that. Once deep to the heart. All right? Come on now. We're depending on you.
You won't leave without me?
We'll stay right here.
You'll stay here?
We're gonna stay here, Matthew.
Don't go.
Come on.
Don't leave me.
Matthew's hat. We found it in a little clothing store in Kent. Richard tried it on. We bought the hat.
Matthew, come on. Go.
Don't leave me.
Listen to the cooing of the dove. How gentle and soothing. As if she's calling out, peace on earth, peace on earth. By the way, while we were shooting the rape inside the house, the one we've just seen, our makeup artist suddenly said, "Forgive me, guys, but I must go." She revealed to us that she was once a victim of a vicious gang rape herself, and these scenes bring awful memories. Just like our electrician, She too walked away in the middle of the shoot, never to be seen or heard from again. It took me 3 days to find another makeup artist. Until then, we continued to shoot with Yuri, our multi-talented cinematographer, handling the makeup chores as well. Well, back to our real-life rape story. My wife told me that when I dropped our daughter off at home, before rushing with the rape victim to the police station, she announced to her, "Mommy, Mommy, Daddy found a woman who was raped." She then looked at her mother with her big innocent eyes and asked, "Mommy, what is rape?" As for the rape victim herself, she stayed in the intensive care of the hospital for about a week. While she was there, I received a phone call from a female police officer who was assigned to the case. She related to me that the girl's father would like to award me with money for what I did for his daughter. Obviously, I turned the offer down. An hour later, the same day the officer called me again. "Her father is asking if he could get your address," she said. "He wants to mail you a thank you note. Is that okay with you?" 2 days later, I received a handwritten letter from my father. It was dated October 7, 1974. "Dear Sir, my wife and myself would like to express our heartfelt thanks for kindness, consolation, and help that you have rendered to our daughter after she was so viciously attacked by the 2 animals that must have come down from the trees. Thank God that our daughter is coming along nicely. The swelling subsided and she can now eat. The police have a number of suspects, but have not as yet made any arrest. Again, our deepest thanks. Respectfully," and he signed it. My dear friend Alex received the same thank you note. Alex's last name was Pfau, P-F-A-U. Before he immigrated to America, he studied filmmaking at the Lodz Film School in Poland. His friend and schoolmate was director Roman Polanski. Alex designed and created all the sound effects you hear and feel in the movie. The birds, the crickets, the motorboat, and even the silence. It was to a great extent due to his wonderful creation of natural ambience that I chose to do away with any background music altogether. After Alex died from a heart attack at age 63, I dedicated to him my movie, Family and Honor, or, as it is known in the United States, Don't Mess with My Sister. How pure and innocent is the morning. It was 6 a.m. I walked to the river for a moment of solitude and to contemplate the day's shoot when I was greeted by a coat of mist floating on the surface of the water. I ran over to the house. I woke up Yuri. "Get the camera, quick!" Yuri grabbed the Arriflex. With only his underpants on, we rushed to the river and took a few quick handheld shots. A few minutes later, the mist was gone. The look and feel of a location, just like the look and feel of an actor, must have a distinctive emotional quality and character to it to convey the mood of the story. When Camille was in her teens, she joined a wild car ride with a bunch of her friends. There was a collision, and she flew head-on through the front windshield, smashing it to bits. The scar on her face is a relic of that terrible accident. Yes, it is real, just a little accentuated by our makeup artist. You usually don't notice it on Camille because it is artfully concealed under a thin coat of makeup. When I bought this canoe, I had the choice of two other colors, green and yellow. Why did I choose red? Yes, because it is the color of blood, and blood is the river of life that flows through the human body. One reviewer observed that the torn paper is a metaphor for Jennifer's shattered body and spirit. It's as if she's symbolically putting herself back together, one piece at a time. My personal typewriter. The entire screenplay was typed on it.
Chocolates and with me, Susie.
As soon as we finished eating supper at this diner, we set up our lights and camera and started to shoot this sequence. The people at the counter are residents of Kent who volunteer to serve as extras. By the way, the town's website on the internet claims that it is a friendly, diverse, beautiful, and interesting community. It is this and more. The people of Kent made us feel at home and left us alone throughout the entire filming. They could not have been more gracious toward us. Between the cast and crew, there were about 30 of us. We occupied an entire motel in town, slept 2 in a room, and for 6 consecutive weeks, worked 6 days a week, 10 to 14 hours each day, with Wednesday designated as our day off. We also got together every evening at a motel to rehearse the scenes we planned to shoot the next day. Kent had 2 gas stations, but not a single movie theater. So twice a week after dinner, we would drive to the town of Danbury, about 30 miles away, to watch the dailies. It is the viewing print that the film lab quickly made from the negative we shot in the past few days for our inspection and approval. There, at the local cinema, after the late night show for the general public was over, we would sit from midnight until the wee hours of the morning and watch the dailies on the big screen. Each night we came to that theater to view the dailies, the projectionist was very happy. He didn't get much sleep, but he got a nice tip. To the best of my recollection, the dailies were always impeccable and we never had to reshoot a single scene. Altogether, we watched about 14.5 hours of dailies, which is equal to 80,000 feet of film. I had exposed that much footage in 35mm Kodak negative stock and printed all of it, even the bad takes. I ended up with a ratio of approximately 8:1, which means that on average, I had 8 takes to choose from for each shot used in the picture. I printed all the takes, including the bad ones, because sometimes you can find a small piece of film even in the worst take. It may convey something usable for the movie, maybe a little precious facial expression or a cutaway that you need that is not found in the good takes.
Where there's no air?
One reviewer who described the film as one of the most vile and morally reprehensible movies ever released questioned in his review, what, for instance, was lunch break like on the set of I Spit on Your Grave? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he thought that at lunchtime we hunted for snakes and skunks in the woods, then sucked their blood and ate them alive, after which the entire cast and crew had a wild sex orgy. After all, such a movie can be made only by a vile and morally reprehensible bunch of people who got hold of a movie camera. Come on, let's be serious now. Well, while we had breakfast on the set, we had our lunch, like our dinner, at either one of two local restaurants that we all liked and where they served us wonderful meals. Then, if there was still time to spare, some went fishing, some read a book, or took a nap under a shady tree. Making a movie is a very exhausting undertaking. You eat well, try to relax, and conserve energy whenever you can. Aaron Tabor, Richard Pace, Anthony Nichols, and Gunther Kliman. These wonderful guys, I mean in real life, they are all dedicated, honorable individuals whose faith and conviction in the meaning and end result of this movie prompted them to embrace the part of such sickening, hateful people. I chose them out of 600 actors who competed for the parts, and I am proud to have been associated with them.
Hey, the beer's on me, huh? Come on, give me a smile. One of your handsome lady killer smiles.
I wonder if any of the actors, or anybody else who participated in the creation of the movie, envisioned at the time we were making it, that it is destined to become one of the most controversial and most criticized films of all time, that its repercussion will be felt even now, so many years after it was made. Did I envision it? I had no doubt that the movie will cause quite a storm, but thought that it will fade away after 4 or 5 years at the most.
You come back with me to the station, okay? All right.
Throughout the entire filming, we used only 3 fixed focal length lenses with mid to wide range angles, 18, 25, and 50 millimeters. On a few occasions, mainly for scenes that took place on the water, we utilized a zoom lens with a range that extended from 25 to 250 millimeters.
Idiot! God damn you!
No!
Prick! Son of a prick! Fucking asshole!
Wait! No!
Jerk!
Poor Matthew. How much more abuse can he take from his friends? Richard took the beating and kicking bravely, even though some of them connected with force.
Scream, get the fuck out of here! Come on, get out of here!
You know, since we could not afford to pay the salaries of a professional crew in every category, we trained some of our volunteer crew members to function as grips, gaffers, and soundmen. They learned their craft while shooting this movie, and after a few days on the job, they were pretty good at it. Later, some of them even went to work in other movie production as professionals at their newly acquired craft. When you make a movie on a shoestring budget, every method of operation to achieve your goal, short of killing somebody for it, should be tried. The reverend of the church behind this old cemetery refused to charge us a fee for filming here. I expressed my gratitude to him by making a modest donation to his house of worship. A few days after we shot this sequence, I got a phone call from him. He did not sound happy. "Mr. Zarki, why didn't you tell me that you are shooting a pornographic movie?" I was astonished. What suddenly made the good clergyman come to this conclusion? I told the crew to take a break and rushed over to the church. The Reverend greeted me with an unfriendly look on his face and went right to the point. "Somebody from New York," he said. "An ex-employee of yours came in this morning. He's spreading the word around town about the true nature of your movie. I'm afraid I have to ask you to surrender to me all the footage you shot in my church." An ex-employee of mine? Would the Reverend please reveal his name to me? When he did, my mouth dropped. He was a production manager I hired and then let go after only a few days, months before I started the shoot. Nobody on my staff could stand his arrogance and obnoxious personality. I related this incident to the pastor, and then, for the next 20 minutes, I recounted to him, in minute and undistorted detail, the entire plot of the movie, and did not fail to mention that it contains lots of nudity, blood, and violence as fundamental elements of the story. I summed up by stating that the movie deals with major biblical themes: crime and punishment, man's inhumanity to man, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. With that said, I offered the Reverend the opportunity to view the entire footage shot so far in town. If he found that it contained what in his eyes signified pornographic substance, I would give him the entire footage shot in and around the church, and he could burn it. The Reverend, who all this time was listening with a reflective silence, rose from his chair. "I don't need to see the footage," he said, looking at me with friendly eyes again. "I trust you." He then shook my hand and added, "If anybody in this town gives you a hard time, you let me know." As I rushed back to the set, my heart was dancing with joy. Imagine, this low-life production manager traveled all the way from New York City to our Connecticut location with the malicious intent to sabotage our production. But instead, look what he did for us. Not only did we get the blessing of the church in this town, but its protection too. Incidentally, the priest we see from the back inside the church playing the organ, it is me. And the two kids, they're Tammy and Terry, my own. They both have their own kids now. Terry has recently directed his first feature-length film, which I've executive produced. It is a comedy drama called Holy Hollywood. Camille Keaton has a cameo role in it. This is Cairns Main Street, a sleepy town in the hot summer sun. The car, a 1975 Dodge Aspen, is mine. It was only 1 year old at the time.
This is the house on Park Hill Lane. I'd like to order some items.
Give me your order, ma'am.
Do we hear music in the background? Heck no, it's only source music coming from the store's audio system.
Hey, Matthew, get this to the house on Park Hill Lane.
One reviewer said, "What is really awful about this movie is that it has no ambient background musical score at all. A movie without a score is like a pancake without the syrup." In fact, once the entire movie was edited, I embarked on searching for a musical concept that would complement and add to it. Since the silent movies, music has been used as a traditional element to enhance the action on the screen, to give the picture dramatic cues, and to add to its mood. But no matter what type of background music I picked and tried to fit to this movie, the screen rejected it. Instead of intensifying the images and supporting them, music weakened them and diminished the impact of the picture. The music in this movie, other critics said, is in its sound effects. Birdsong, human noises, a boat engine, or the click-click-click of a bicycle. But notably, it is in the sound of silence itself. It gives the movie a cool feel and a realistic touch, and causes the viewing experience to be even stronger. There is nothing to distract us away from the woods, from the rapes, and from the eventual gore. It makes the viewer feel like an invisible observer. In other words, the movie has a silent score. I could not express my reasons for not using music in the movie better than these viewers have. We did not use a dolly in the movie or any type of camera vehicles for moving shots. For this shot, the cameraman and I sat in the rear of our equipment van with the doors open, holding the camera in our hands. For the 1 or 2 times that we needed to make moving shots, We borrowed a supermarket cart from the local grocery store and used it as a dolly. These bicycle shots were the very first we took on the first day of filming. Obviously, you don't shoot a movie in a sequential order. I purposely selected the light beginning in order to ease the crew into the momentum of the production. The sequence that follows these shots was taken a few weeks later.
You came super fast, Matthew.
Have you ever witnessed a man being hung? I mean, for real? A week before we shot the forthcoming hanging scene, we rehearsed it. Our production manager, Bill Tascal, and my assistant, Barry Picard, who also created all the special effects in the movie, strapped a parachute harness over Richard's ribcage, then tied a long rope over and around the harness. The rope was then pulled from under Richard's shirt and over the back of his neck. This was done obviously to create the illusion that Matthew was being pulled up and hung by the neck, while in reality, he would be hoisted by his upper torso. Next, we flung the rope over a healthy tree branch, and two muscle crewmen pulled it and raised Richard up into the air. Richard was amused. While pretending to go through the motions of a man choking on the rope, he was cackling with joy, and so did we. The test went well, and we were looking forward to the day of the actual shoot. I mentioned earlier that I took multiple master shots of each sequence, but we couldn't afford this luxury for the hanging scene. Richard was almost 6 feet tall and weighed 180 pounds. The longer we kept him suspended in midair, the greater the risk that the rope and harness would not be able to sustain his weight. Therefore, we planned to shoot the part where he was actually being lifted into the air in a single master shot that would last no longer than 60 seconds. Afterwards, when he was not suspended on the rope, we would take reaction shots of his face, hands, and feet. Then came the exciting and electrifying moment. We were ready to shoot the scene. "Action!" I called out into the megaphone. As our two muscle guys pulled on the rope and lifted Richard into the air, his hands and legs began to jerk violently, and his face at once turned blue. My goodness, I thought. It looks so real. What a wonderful actor Richard is. After about 15 seconds, I said to him, "Great, Richard, great. Now give me less and less movements. You are choking. You are quickly dying." Richard, who was always quick to respond to my direction, was still kicking wildly. What is it with him? I pondered. Has he gone so deeply into the role that he has lost touch with reality? Suddenly, a thought that put a chill into me crossed my mind. What if Richard is not acting? What if something has gone terribly wrong and we are hanging him for real, choking him to death? "Richard, are you okay?" I said out loud. "If you are, please touch your head with one hand." He did not respond. Instead, he was still thrashing his feet. His hands were hanging limply, his tongue was sticking out, and his eyes began to bulge. "Let him loose!" I screamed with all my might into the megaphone. As the guys quickly lowered Richard, he collapsed into the shallow water, unconscious. We pulled him out and, to keep him conscious and alive, removed the harness from his body, rubbed his head and chest, and splashed water on his face. A moment later, when he came to, Richard gazed at me with fuzzy eyes, and the first thing that he said was, "Did the shot go well? Do you want me to do it again?" The entire crew and I had a terrible sense of guilt. Were we negligent in the way we rigged him for the scene? Had we kept him too long in the air? The answer came later from Richard himself. He revealed to us for the first time that he suffers from an acute fear of heights, and that as soon as we lifted him into the air, he panicked and had a terrible spell of dizziness. Everything around him was whirling about, and he had the sensation of falling into a bottomless pit. On top of that, he felt that the parachute harness that hugged his ribcage was squeezing his chest and belly with an unbearable, vicious force that instantly choked his windpipe. Unable to utter a word, he was kicking and jerking his hands for real, hoping that we would realize that he was in serious trouble and rescue him before it was too late. We, of course, thought that it was only part of the act. As he started to black out and was certain that his death would follow in another second or two, he took comfort in the fact that nobody would ever dare say that his acting at this scene looks fake. You may ask, how come Richard was laughing when we rehearsed the scene? Wasn't he hanging above ground then too? He was only masking how he truly felt. Richard, being Richard, the too nice guy and the true trooper that he is, did not want us to know that inwardly he was shaking with fear. I understand Richard's anxiety. You see, I too suffer from an acute case of arachnophobia. When Richard was auditioning for the role of Matthew, some people on my staff thought that he was too big for the part. Physically, that is. Matthew should be a short, skinny fellow, they said. A slim girl like Jennifer could never lift off the ground a guy of Richard's size and hang him. You were asking the audience to work too hard on the credibility scale, they claimed. But I assured them that Jennifer, in a fit of violent rage, could even lift up a guy who was double the size of Richard. Hell has no fury like a woman scorned.
Supermarket. This is the house on Park Hill Lane. An hour ago, I ordered a few things, and nobody's come to deliver.
Sorry for the delay, ma'am. We'll check on it.
Thank you.
Aaron Tabor grew up on a ranch in Ontario, California. He was born into a very strict religious sect that required farming and personal simplicity as a way of life. His faith prohibited the use of modern facilities such as electricity, telephone, and television. Imagine, he was 15 when he went to the movies for the first time. An accomplished pianist, composer, and voice teacher, Aaron wrote the jazz rock score for the 1974 feature film called Candy Striped Nurses. Movie critic Joe Bob Briggs compliments Aaron's performance in the movie by describing him as the finest, crudhead, slimeball woman-hater ever portrayed on the big screen. I did not reveal to the cast and crew that I wrote the screenplay until much after we started to shoot the movie. We would like to meet Linda Summers, the actors told me one day. Is she coming to the set? Linda Summers was the fictitious name I used to conceal my identity. She'll be here next week, was my reply. The following week, When they asked me again about her, I would say, she couldn't make it, but she'll be here next week. But by the third week, when they asked about her again, I stretched out my hand for a shake and said, here I am, meet Linda Summers. I told them that I used a pseudonym so they would not hesitate to give me their fair and unbiased input. Favorable or unfavorable, I wanted their honest comments and suggestions.
I don't like women giving me orders.
I mentioned earlier that there were some compulsory cuts that I had to make in the picture. Here is why. In 1978, upon completing the picture, I submitted a 35mm print of it to the Motion Picture Association of America, also known as the MPAA. It is the organization that rates movies in the United States. After viewing the movie, the MPAA informed me that I have to make certain cuts in it if I wish to obtain an R rating. It certainly was my wish, but where shall I make these certain cuts? They wouldn't advise me. In a very polite manner, they conveyed to me that they do not function as censor and therefore cannot tell me what to remove. I had to figure it out for myself. At the time, the NC-17 category, no one 17 and under admitted, did not exist. Beyond R, X was the only option, and X then, like now, implied a pornographic movie, and mainstream cinemas in the United States would not play a movie which is rated X. With much reluctance, I cut a few feet in some shots and snipped a few frames in others, mostly in the rape sequences, and then resubmitted the print to the MPAA. They were still not satisfied. You've got to make additional cuts. Where? You figure it out. As they shipped the print back to me again, I shaved more footage, such as the bottle insertion during the rape, shortened the blood spurting out of Johnny's crotch during the revenge, and dispatched the movie back to the MPAA. The reaction? It's getting there, but you've got to cut some more. You'll figure out what and where. I was based at the time in New York City, and the MPAA is in Los Angeles. So by now, mind you, the print was ping-ponging back and forth from coast to coast for the third time. The movie already looked emaciated and deformed, and its shock value was diluted. It no longer had balls. So what else does the MPAA want me to cut? Maybe I should just keep the opening and closing titles and take out everything in between? Before resorting to this, I made one additional major cut in the picture. Soon after the four guys grabbed Jennifer and placed her on top of the rock, I eliminated the entire act of sodomy and then cut back to Andy just after he finished raping her, a total of about 45 seconds. I then sent the chopped off, mutilated version of the movie to the MPAA, and this time, the fourth time around, hallelujah, they granted me the R certificate.
How old are your children?
Let's see, the girl is 10, and the boy, he's 9 already.
While on the subject of rating, in 1980, when the movie premiered in Chicago, its American distributor, the Jerry Goss organization, unbeknown to me and to the MPAA, played the picture in its full, uncut version while announcing it as being rated R. He drove two Chicago-based critics, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, to wonder how this film was granted an R rating. They claimed that it was the roughest R-rated movie they've ever seen. 5 years later, when the MPAA eventually discovered the deception, they sued the distributor and my production company. After I proved to the MPAA that I have nothing to do with this deception, they cleared me of all charges. As for the American distributor, he pledged to the MPAA never to release it again in its full, original uncut version while advertising it as R-rated.
I really despise people that don't work. Get into trouble too easily, you know?
Matthew works. He's okay.
Matthew, he's a half idiot. Hey, you know, they called me yesterday from the supermarket asking if I seen him. Disappeared since yesterday. Took off with his bike somewhere. Nobody knows where or why.
This scene stirred more comments than any other event scenes in the movie. The late film critic Gene Siskel, who was appalled by the movie and disgusted by the rape scenes, remarked about Jennifer's method of getting back at her assailants. "But what about the revenge?" he wrote. "Doesn't that make her spit in your grave acceptable? No, it only makes it clever. In order to kill her attackers, Jennifer chooses to seduce them. She has a full sexual session with one and gives a luxurious bath to another. The idea behind these scenes is that at their core, women like Jennifer really dig rough sex and enjoy being raped." End of quote. And what do other reviewers say about Jennifer's methods of retribution? Following her horrifying ordeal, some of them comment, she creates her own scenario of revenge, play acting with the men and turning their own egos and machismo against them. After what they did to her, she feels nothing sexually. She uses sex merely as a weapon of choice.
Oh, you've got one fantastic sense of humor.
I let Matthew kiss and at me before I killed him.
Camille is frequently asked if she was raped for real in the movie. "Sure," she replies, "and I also sliced the guy's thing off for real, too."
You've got a weird sense of humor.
Do I?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, that's great.
All the rape sequences were shot in the first 3 weeks, then all the revenge scenes in the following 3. Camille says that the part she most enjoyed playing in the movie was in the second half when she was getting her revenge. So, during the shooting period, she had 50% terror and 50% joy.
Oh, yes, how sweet. How sweet.
By the way, you notice how she becomes increasingly attractive and foxy looking after each killing?
That's so sweet, it's painful. Oh, God. Oh.
Jennifer takes no prisoners. Does she get mad? Hell no, girls. She gets even. Johnny is getting his just desserts. True justice is poetic. The fantasy of almost any woman who's been violated.
Oh, look what she's done to me! Oh, shit!
When I completed the picture, I showed it to all the major and independent film distributors in the US under its original title, Day of the Woman. They all turned it down. I remember asking a film acquisition officer at Paramount why she rejected it, and her answer was, I was offended by it. You worked 2 years on a project, put your blood and guts and all your money into it, and everybody dismisses it as good for nothing. So what did I do? I created a poster that showed Jennifer's muddied and beaten face looking directly at us. Next to her, I pasted a silhouette of Matthew hanging down from a tree and put a tagline on the poster that read, after it was all over, she waited. Then she struck back in a way only a woman can. Day of the Woman, the ultimate day of terror. Next, I took the film and a bunch of these posters, flew to France and put them on display at the biggest motion picture shopping mall in the world, the Cannes Film Market. It was May of 1978, 3 months after the picture was completed. One critic described Cannes as a bizarre bazaar where the chief commodities are egos and illusions. And that's exactly what it is. The impression you get is that how a film is promoted is more important than the film itself. So how did I promote my picture? Other than hanging some posters in a few strategic spots around town, I printed 500 flyers that showed the same artwork as in the poster, and below it I announced the date, time, and the name of the theater for a one-time only screening of the movie. I had only enough money to print the flyers on yellow typing paper. At least I had one color to show off. I then walked from one hotel to the next along the beach where film buyers stay, climbed from floor to floor and slipped a flyer under each door, as well as stuffed one under the windshield wipers of every car that was parked in front of the hotels. A half hour before the movie started, the theater, which contained about 400 seats, had standing room only. 10 days later, I left Cannes with my briefcase swollen with distribution agreements, nice down payment checks, and a happy smile on my face. Incidentally, the movie was declined entry into the competition in Cannes that year, but it was there that the international film distributors gave it its first favorable reception.
A good father and a good husband.
The actress originally selected to play the part of Johnny's wife was sick on that day, so just a few minutes before shooting this scene, I asked Alexis Magnotti, our script girl, to take over.
Where is he?
She read the scene once, we rehearsed it once, then shot it. Isn't she terrific?
Get out of here! Get the fuck out of here!
Well, back to film history 101.
Fucking bums.
Since no distributor in America would touch the picture, I decided to distribute it on my own. It was too expensive to open in a big city, so I booked the movie in 10 theaters, mostly drive-ins, located in the rural South. The R-rated version of Day of the Woman opened in these theaters in December 1978 with a minuscule advertising budget of $3,000. It lasted for only a few days on each screen and hardly made back the cost of publicity. Where was the blame? Was it the lack of advertising, or was it the castrated version of the film? Regardless, my attempt at distributing it on my own was a total disaster, so I quickly pulled the picture out of distribution. By now, I was in deep debt. Many of the services that I got during the production of this picture were arranged by deferred payment. By that time, all the vendors were growing impatient with me, especially the film laboratory. In 1979, VCRs and movies on tape were still a new phenomenon, and only a handful of video distributors existed. At the time, the major studios were not yet willing to release their mainstream motion pictures into this new medium. So wouldn't video distributors be hungry for a fresh title? I knew that if my movie went straight to video, I would never get another chance at theatrical distribution. But I was desperate. I needed money to pay off my debts. In the end, it wasn't an issue. All the video distributors rejected it. One of them even said to me, "Don't waste your time, buddy. Nobody will ever buy or even rent a video cassette of this movie." Soon afterward, in December 1979, I screened the movie out of competition at the Miami Film Festival. Immediately after the screening, a young woman introduced herself to me as the acquisition officer of veteran film distributor Jerry Gross. She was ecstatic. "Jerry is forming a new independent distribution company," she told me. "This is a movie that he must distribute." Well, to make a long story short, in March of 1980, me and the Jerry Gross organization signed an agreement for the distribution of Day of the Woman in the United States and English-speaking Canada. But, alas, my agreement with the distributor stated that they had the right to change the title to whatever they deemed fit. When they announced to me that the new title was A Spit in Your Grave, I instantly hated it, and I still do to this day. By the way, this title was swiped by the distributor from a 1962 movie that bears the same name. In addition to giving the movie a new, sleazy title, the distributor also packaged it as an exploitation flick and consequently failed to present the true image and intent of the picture. The promotion campaign was also misleading. It announced that this woman has just cut, chopped, broken, and burned 5 men beyond recognition. There were only 4 men, and no one was burned. All in all, the campaign was a masterpiece of cunning ingenuity. The movie opened in Chicago on July 12, 1980, in 27 theaters with its new name and its new publicity campaign. For Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, the 2 Chicago-based film critics, it was a day destined to live in infamy. Of all the film critics who passionately disliked this movie, Ebert and Siskel reigned supreme. The way these 2 critics waged a campaign against this movie is a unique phenomenon in the annals of motion pictures in America. They utilized any media they could get their hands on and blasted the theaters that ran the movie. They appealed to the public on television not to see it and to picket cinemas that showed it. They even stood in front of theaters to urge people not to go in. Were they successful? Big time. The widely publicized opinion that the film degrades women and inspires men to rape them convinced movie theater owners to cancel showing the picture and influenced other theater owners across the US to refuse to play it altogether. Even the distributor got panicky and pulled the picture out of circulation. These 2 critics came very close to reaching their goal of banning the movie. However, something new transpired and spoiled their killing process. As the popularity of movies on video took off in the early 80s, the ability to choose whether this movie could be seen was in the people's hands and no longer in the hands of critics or gutless movie theater owners. As soon as A Spit in Your Grave showed up on the video, it climbed to Billboard's videocassette top 40 best-selling chart and maintained that position for 14 consecutive weeks. It also earned their #1 award for the 100 best-selling videocassette of 1981, above Godfather 2, The Amityville Horror, Cabaret, Grease, and Fiddler on the Roof. By 2002, the movie has already been released on video in the US for the 6th time. It is an unparalleled event in American film history.
Come on. Turn around. Lean on my arm.
Well, the movie has had the last laugh. Mr. Ebert was extended an invitation to add his commentary in this DVD edition. He could have said whatever he wished, without any restrictions. He declined the opportunity. Still, at every chance he gets, he continues his attacks against the movie. Sometimes I wonder, what would have happened if the movie opened in Chicago in 1980 under the title of Day of the Woman instead of A Spit in Your Grave, and in its full, uncut version. In his 1989 book, Horror, A Connoisseur's Guide to Literature and Film, literary and film critic Leonard Wolf opened his review of the movie by saying, "Here is a film whose superior qualities doubly obscured. First, by its exploitative title, so dreadful that it is almost impossible to imagine that anything good can follow. And second, by the rash of negative criticism it has received from critics who failed utterly to understand the uses to which this film puts sex and violence." And he sums up his review with, "Let me have the last word. I think that in years to come, A Spit in Your Grave, with its earlier name restored, Day of the Woman, will be seen as the pioneering, sensitive work that it is." Thanks, Mr. Wolf. I could not express it any better. Even though we are no longer husband and wife, Camille and I remain good friends. Perhaps one day we'll get together again, professionally that is, on the set of the long-awaited sequel, I Spit on Your... Day of the Woman, Part 2. I could go on and on, but Jennifer has already completed her mission, and time is running short. My thanks to Professor Carl J. Clover for her fascinating, in-depth analysis of the movie in her book, Men, Women, and Chainsaws, to Martin Barker for defending the movie in his book, The Video Nasties, when it was banned in the United Kingdom, to Joe Bob Briggs, who never missed a chance to speak on behalf of the picture in his articles, books, and TV appearances, and to Robert Fashing for inducting the film into the Hall of Fame of the amazing world of cult movies. Thanks must also go to each and every person that posted a website dedicated to this movie and to the participants in the many forums that debated. I also wish to extend my gratitude to my friend Mark Epstein for his helpful remarks and suggestions to the umpteen notes I have collected for this commentary. And finally, my thanks to Justice Beda, my co-producer, and to my wonderful cast and production crew, without which this movie could not have been made. So long for now.